Hi there, this is Jeanette Comerford. This is the first video for my Christmas 2014 series. I'm going to be working on this digital image from Tiddly Inks. I'm going to be taking you through how I created the distress ink background. But first I'm going to take you through the Copic marker coloring. I've sped up the coloring and added a little bit of music. Okay, so now my image is all colored up. I am going to run it through my Big Shot. I am using a die from Fawn. This is their large stitched rectangle die, and this is from their large set. And I've been really liking these dies. I really think that the detail along the edges is really pretty. So this was how I was able to create a mask. I printed my image on Nina so that I could color it, and at the same time I printed it on a piece of printer paper, and where the image was going to print I just adhered a piece of my Eclipse masking tape. So the image printed on the Eclipse paper, I was able to peel it off my printer paper, and I just fussy cut it, And now what I'm going to show you is if there are any areas within the image you need to cut out, the best way I found of doing that was to lay it down on a cutting mat, and then you're able to use your craft knife to sort of get nice clean edges. So now I'm going to place it over my image, trying to be careful to get the edges lined up. There was a tiny area that I guess it didn't print on my masking tape, so I just took a little piece and laid it on top. Now I have just a spare piece of cardstock. I'm going to lay that over the bottom part where the ground would be, and I'm going to mask off the edges sort of along the stitched line. I'm going to lay down some post-it tape, and that way those edges will stay nice and white after I've added my ink. So this is the first color I'm putting down. It's Tumble Glass, and you can see I sort of pounce on my ink pad and then pounce on that craft mat that I'm working on. The craft mat is nice and smooth, and you're able to sort of pounce on it, sort of work that ink nicely into your foam blender, and then when you go onto your paper you don't get any sort of harsh lines. So this whole background took a while. I've sped up the video so that it's not too long and boring for you, but you can see I'm working along the edges. I start on the edges and work my way in, and I just gradually build that color up. So my aim is to have the center part of this rectangle where the image is, I want it sort of lighter, and then as you move away from the image I want it to get darker. So this first color was Tumble Glass, and then the second color I'm adding on is Salty Ocean. It is a little deeper in color, and I will be bringing it towards the center but not going as much over the image as I did with the Tumble Glass. Now one thing I did notice with my mask was usually I don't have that problem with the mask lifting up, but I think because I had run it through the printer on the photocopy paper or the printer paper, I think it lost a little bit of its stickiness. So you'll see during the video I keep having to sort of tap a couple of areas down. So again, this is still the Salty Ocean, and I just keep blending until I get the look I want. So then I'm going to move on to a darker color. This is Chipped Sapphire, and you can see it's much darker and it's not as sort of aqua color. It's got more black in it, and I'm going to concentrate on the edges and sort of the upper part of the rectangle. Now if you are doing this, you can actually move your craft mat around so you don't have to work with your right hand and left hand, but because I was recording this I couldn't do that. Now this is the final color I'm adding, and it is Black Soot, and I'm just adding that up to the top just to deepen that color, and then I'll go back over it with the Chipped Sapphire because I want that nicely blended out. And then finally I'm going to go back to that lighter color, the Tumbled Glass, and I am going to just blend over the center outwards into those darker edges and just make sure everything is nicely blended. So you're just, again, you're going to work at this until it looks the way you want it to look. Now I'm able to just pull off the post-it paper, and you can see those nice edges that you get. And now for the ground, I decided what I was going to do is just sort of mask off those edges, and then I just went over on top with that tumbled glass, the lighter color, sort of from the bottom, and I just blended it upwards a little bit into the sky, so it wasn't too harsh a line, but there still is a difference between the sky and the ground. So now I'm going to show you how I created, oh, before I show you, I guess there was one little area that I wanted to sponge a little bit more. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how I created the stars. This is a Sharpie poster paint pen, and it's probably one of my favorite ways of adding white dots or white details to my coloring. So basically, I just sort of randomly went over the image. To make the larger dots, I held the pen for longer on the paper, and then to make the lighter dots, I just sort of had a lighter touch. So you get sort of a randomness and a difference in size for your dots. And then I just took some Stickles. This is in Stardust, and I just added that all along the bottom, and that sort of gives the illusion or the idea that it's sort of icy and snowy on the ground. So once that was done, I set it aside to let it dry, and then I was able to adhere it down onto a card. So I cut out a scalloped rectangle. This is from a Mama Elephant die, and it's just the perfect size for the rectangle. And then I laid it on a card base. This is Nina cardstock, cut to size to measure 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. For the sentiment, I cut out a piece of vellum using a PaperTrey Ink die, and this is also a PaperTrey ink set. I believe it's called Merry Christmas. So this was a nice sort of sentiment that would sort of run across my card nicely. So I just used my embossing buddy to swipe down the vellum to remove any static. I stamped the sentiment using Versamark ink, and then I'm just going to sprinkle some white powder, white embossing powder over on top, and then just tap the back of your paper or vellum just to remove any stray powder. I took it over to the side and heat embossed it, and then to adhere it down, I used zig glue. I just added little dots all behind where the lettering was, and that way it was pretty well sort of hidden. It's always a bit of a challenge to figure out how to adhere vellum, so I figured it was hidden behind the letters there. I'm going to lay my block on top of it so that it dries flat, and then I decided I wanted to add a little star. So this is from the same PaperTrey ink set, and I'm just going to use platinum embossing powder. I believe it's from Ranger. So same thing, I'm going to take that little embossing buddy and I'll just sort of swipe the card. That way I don't have any stray powder adhering to it. Stamp the star with Versamark. I'm going to sprinkle my embossing powder over on top, give it a quick tap behind, and then just take it over to the side to heat it up. So that's my card done. Thank you very much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it.